Well, we are at the old ducking hole, as I call it, or the ditch. We are going to start backing up water as of today. It's supposed to rain this week. We're a little bit late getting this in here. However, we had some other work we had to do first. We're going to lay this sucker off so that we know where the water's going to be. So here's our pipe. We've got a 24-inch pipe going through this dam. Obviously, there's an exit. This is the side that we're going to put our riser on. We'll show you guys that in the process. But right now, I've got the laser set, the receiver, and the laser set there. What we have to find out is all the way up through here, where does that water line end up at? Right now, we're shooting top of levee. When I say top of dam, levee, whatever the heck you want to call it, it's where I'm standing. That's the elevation. We're going to put flags up through here, and we know that we're going to be a slight bit below that. The reason we're going to be a slight bit below that is once we put our stand pipe on the lower end, the water will actually end up just shy of the height of levee. That way, if we get a hard rain, the water doesn't rush down through here and go over top of the levee and wash it out. That would be worst case scenario. So we'll hold it a little bit below it. We're going to go up through here, take some shots. I'm really not concerned about where the water is going to be right here where we're walking. It doesn't do us a whole lot of good to have water in this area, which is why the levee, the dam is the same level as that area. Once we get up in here into this low spot, that's probably where we're going to start holding some water. And then as we get further and further away from the laser, the more likely we are to hold more water. So let's get up in here and see where the water is going to be held at. All right, this gives you all a really good example of what I'm talking about. Hopefully you can see this in the sun. There's an orange flag way down there. You can see it comes up out of the ditch. Orange flag, orange flag, orange flag, orange flag, orange flag. So right here it kind of curves away from the ditch and it kicks back down to the ditch, and this entire area here will hold roughly 12 inches of water. And then as you can see, the ditch on the left hand side, it actually starts to slope back down as well, and you can tell where there's been water in this area. If you draw a line from here straight across, it ends up basically right on that line right there. So I'm pretty confident we're going to end up with another pocket on that side that holds, heck, that's probably 50 yards all the way across. And then the water is going to be here. It'll carry down, it'll go around. And we're only going to mark, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 more spots up through here, because this kind of curves in and out, which ensures there's pockets. And the whole point of this is the Ohio River is right over there. And if you remember, I called it the ducking hole / the ditch. The goal is to have enough body of water here that would give the ducks a nice place to come in, feed, enjoy themselves, and then obviously us some time to enjoy ourselves as well. So we're going to finish going down this side, and then we'll step across the pipes that are all the way up there, go back over, and then we'll take down that side and give you guys an outline of that as well. It's a little hard when you're in person on the ground to see this, and Google Earth does not have the updated image because we just got done with this work 2 weeks ago. Was this work performed specifically for duck hunting? No. Was that pipe put in specifically for duck hunting? Yes. The rest of this was contoured so that the farmer could gain acreage and actually plant all the way to the ditch. So by being beneficial to the farmer adding acreage, it's also beneficial to the duck hunter, this guy right here, because it'll give me more area to flood that had crop on it. I will take the flood water out after duck season. It'll dry up through late winter, early spring. The farmer will be able to plant it all the way to the ditch, be able to harvest it in the fall, and I'll be able to come back in here and put water on it again. But you guys will see that entire process and probably a few hunts off of it. I don't know about this year because it's all mud. However, sometimes if you give waterfowl a body of water, build it and they will come, right? So let's finish setting this up all the way down through here, and we'll get you guys a better visual. Hopefully you all can see a little bit better now as to what I'm talking about. You can see the orange flags dotted down through there, and then it comes around this point, drops down on the bottom side, and you can't see the flags for the tall grass. And you get right over here, straight in line with that telephone pole. Between me and that telephone pole, there's an orange flag, and it goes all the way over on that lower edge, just right at that grass level. There's another flag right here, and then it starts to go behind the dirt pile. So we'll probably have to lower everything about 6 inches from where we're at right now, which was top of levee. So we'll have a full foot of freeboard, meaning the water level is a foot from the top of the dam down there. And as you can see, this is the other side where it has always stayed wet because of the beaver dam that we tore out. You can see this orange flag here. You can see this orange flag here. That water kind of curls over, goes up into that area, and it comes right back down that ditch to that orange flag, and it stays on our side. So there'll be like an island all the way out through here until it drops off again. So we're going to go put another flag there, another flag here, and then we'll turn around and give you guys a view from this way as well. But it's going to be a significant amount of water in here, and this guy is happy. Now we just got to get it in here. All right, this should help quite a bit. You can kind of see from this flag how it jumps up. But if you look just beyond that flag, there's another flag right there. That flag is where this water will actually slightly go around this high spot, come back, go to that flag, go around to that flag. This down here at the edge of that wet spot is not a flag. And then it'll come along that hillside and go to that flag. So basically above this dark area, we're only going to be a couple more inches of water above where the water had been holding before, and it'll carry down all the way along. And you see there's a hump. It'll turn back, and we're going to go put another flag on that hump, and then another flag over in that grassy area, so you guys can tie this entire thing kind of snaking out, back in, back out, around, down, over, around, back to that flag. You get the gist of this. You get the gist of this. So that allows us to have multiple coves, if you will. If you know anything about a pond, most of them are a circle, but if there's an area that is an indention where the water goes back in, it's a cove. This will give us multiple coves, so that if the wind, for example, that's blowing at us right now, the ducks will want to fly into that wind, which means we'll hunt this side. And that thick grass over there is probably going to be a really good spot because we've got a nice wide area of water, and those ducks can come off the river, fly a great big circle, or up the river, down the river, whichever way it might be, fly a great big circle and pitch right into that spot or into this area. And then if the wind is blowing from that direction, that means that they're going to pitch in coming from the actual river like my hand just did. And we've got nice tall grass areas. I call that hide. It's a place for us to put our blinds and not be seen, and put our decoys out here in this open water, decoys out here in this open water, etc., depending on which way the wind's blowing. If the wind is blowing straight up the gut, we have less hide, but we do have a little patch right here. We can make it look better than that. And it's kind of one of those things you really want to be, if the wind's coming up this way, you want to be all the way down on that side, but that's where everything gets really skinny. So that'd be the only wind that we'll struggle with a little bit, but we'll figure it out. We always do. Let's finish laying this sucker out. All right, so this really explains a cove quite well. You guys can see how this turns and goes out, and there's an orange flag right there on the tip of it. Well, the remaining orange flags for that other side are actually over that direction, because that's a high spine coming out. So that water will turn around that high spine and run here through this flag, and then back out where that high spine is over there. So that allows us to get the water closest to where we can hide if the wind is blowing from the river, which is behind us. We can get down here in this grassy area and the water is only going to be, oh, I don't know, 6 inches deep right here, maybe 10 inches deep right here, so we can get down into this stuff. And we can act like a copperhead, fill it back, put our blinds down in here, and we can hide. You see all the grass in front of me? Granted, I'm not in a blind or anything, but we can definitely hide down in here quite well. We can hide the dog down in here with us. And then obviously, this is the first attempt. If we end up having too much water, which I don't think is going to be the problem, but it might be, all we have to do is change our standpipe, which again, in the next video, you guys will see me putting on the standpipe, and then I'll come down here every day that I can, and I'll check to see how much the water has risen. It will take time, but if we do get a nice rain, Mother Nature fills up these flooded areas way faster than I can with a pump. I'm not saying a pump is out of the equation. But then you've got a piece of equipment, running the pump, diesel fuel, time, you got to babysit it, make sure you don't run out of fuel, then you lose prime, yada yada yada. Whereas if we go down here, we put that standpipe on, we make sure it's good and secure, as long as that standpipe doesn't come off. Every time it rains, any water that comes from way up there out of that valley right there specifically and comes down the hill all the way down along this ditch underneath the road, feeds this ditch, and ends up down there where you saw me set up the laser and took an elevation on the levee. And that's where we're stopping it at, which should ensure that all this water backs up to a certain level. And then anything after that level, anything that comes in up there pushes up the standpipe and spills over, so that it doesn't flood anything up there by the road. We're only trying to flood up to that access road where we crossed over to get on this side of the ditch. Let's go down through here and confirm a few more things, and we'll get a view from the bottom side. So you guys can see what I'm talking about right there with lowering this thing 6 inches. That stick should be on the ground, which would put the water even right in here along this bank. We don't need the water over here as much as we need the water up there. I'm not saying having water here is a problem. However, we want to make sure and mitigate any risk up there at the highway. So taking 6 inches off of those flags is probably what we're going to do. And when I say taking 6 inches off the flags, that's water line. The flags would move downhill 6 inches, which means over here at the dam, we're going 6 inches further down the dam with our water line. We'll get down here to the far end, and hopefully you guys can see the flags from all the way down here. I know it's a struggle sometimes to see what it truly looks like with boots on the ground. I'll go review it again on Google Earth, make sure that I can't at least give you a better idea of what the goal is here, of what I'm trying to achieve to have a spot to waterfowl hunt. If it doesn't look like it's going to work out, because the dirt work is obviously not going to be on Google Earth yet. They don't take a new picture every week. So I will review it. If it's not there, I won't show it to you guys, but once it is there, probably next year would be my guess. It's going to be flooded every year, so maybe next year we'll be able to give you guys a layout if Google Earth doesn't allow it. But let's get down here and get us a view from the bottom side. It's still kind of hard to see those orange flags, but there's going to be basically no water here, very little water up out of the ditch there, and then you can see where the flag is definitely a decent distance away from the ditch. And then the flag disappears because that's a cove, and then it comes back out and you see two flags side by side right there. That's actually the lowest point, and then where it starts to kick back, because I also need to have an understanding where that water line is going to be so we can set up things properly prior to the hunt. And having that visual now is very beneficial. You guys, I pointed out the hide, if you will, the tall grasses. Those are advantage points for us, and that's if the water level gets too deep, it's no longer an advantage point, and these fields are cut really low, and over here is nothing but dirt. So even if we hold the water a foot lower this year than what we would do next year, with what we have because of all the the reworking of the land that we did to gain acreage for the farmer, that's not a big deal. We can keep it a foot lower this year if we have to, and then add a foot to our standpipe next year to get the water level where we really want it. But if you look to the right of those two flags, you can see another orange flag over here on the right. So this ditch will look like it's no longer there. I'm mentioning that because if you guys do these things, you've got to understand the lay of the land. If a person's wearing waders, you down a bird, and you just go trudging out through that 12 inches of water, well, it's going to turn into 5 foot of water really quick. And if you don't know it's there, you're going under, and that doesn't make for a good day. So this is a really good spot for a dog. You have less obstruction. You've got bodies of water on both sides. It's going to look like a really big area of water, even though it's not very deep, which my understanding is, I've done a little bit of research. I'm no professional at this. My understanding is 6 to 18 inches of water is what waterfowl prefers. We're going to give them a range of all of that and then some really deep stuff. So I'm hoping that all variety of waterfowl comes in here, including Canada geese. But that is the view from the backside, and that is our layout. Hopefully that all makes sense. All right, well, here we are. Promised you guys I'd come to the laptop and give you a layout of the Duckin hole. Right here is that tree line just below our pipe. Where we put that pipe in was right here. So if you can envision, this is where, well, that didn't go too well, did it? Oh, goodness gracious. Let's delete that one. Sometimes this is not, oh, nope, I don't want to delete the project. I want to delete the line. Sometimes when you try to draw small stuff, it doesn't work out so well. So we're going to do 2 straight lines so that you guys can get a good visual. That would be top of dam, and then within that dam we obviously have our 20-foot section of pipe that runs this direction, and on this side here is where the standpipe is going to go long term. That kind of gives you guys the understanding of the levee and the pipe. And then if we zoom out, basically, I'm going to trace this path. All of this in this area here is contoured totally different now. This is a long slope going to the ditch all the way down through here. We do have this hillside still protruding out, but this is smoothed out quite, I don't want to say flat, but it's more of a long sloped contour opposed to all these jagged lines you see here. These jagged lines are from the previous work that was done. You can see there was a low spot here, high spot here, etc. So basically how this works out, if I was to come about right in here and start to draw this line, this high spot does come down a little bit, but not quite as much as what it did before. Then we wrap around this corner, and it kind of follows this outside contour and comes back down to this point. Up here is where you saw the actual access that crosses this ditch. That is right here. It comes around this point, kicks back just like that. That is actually still a feature that's there today. And then kind of comes around in here, follows over, and then right here is that topsoil pile, all that dirt that was mounded up right above those pipes. So the water level is going to kick over, neck down to here, and then it runs kind of over maybe a little bit, comes down through here pretty straight, if you will. And it actually, if you remember those flag locations earlier in the video, kind of kicks up in here just a little bit, but not a lot. And then ends up coming down, and right in this area here, there's kind of a high spot in the field. It's not as severe as high spots like this, but once it gets beyond that high spot, if we zoom in here, you can see the lines where water has eroded dirt over the years. It basically shoots back out all the way over here to this outside edge, comes down, and then you remember that peak I called it, this would be a small cove, and then the water's going to come down. You kind of have like a peninsula here, and then it's going to curve back over. So that would be that peak there, and then it just kind of follows this contour along right here until we get all the way back to our pipe. Oops, went a little too far there. And then starts to neck back down, because this actually starts to pick up pretty quickly out in that field, and then basically connects over. So that would be the water area. If I zoom out, you guys can see that's a pretty large area, and we can actually somewhat measure that. It's not going to be perfect, but that's distance. Let's see if I can find. Nope, that's not the right button. I know there's a way to measure the area. Map style, I can also show you guys maybe. Let's see here. Nope, can't show you the elevations. It does not look like. Let's turn on the grid lines and see. Nope, that's going to only give us latitude, longitude. No, we don't need clouds, we don't need buildings. Well, if I was to do the distance, and I was to do it in yards, I'll trace this out here so you guys can see the total yards. So call this the circumference, if you will. I know it's not a perfect circle, but it does get you close to understanding. If you were to, I mean, you guys walked it with me. Oh, looks like I messed up there. You guys walked it with me. So we were 587 yards to here. Water area, yes, that's what it is. Come on. Distance is still in yards. So 587, and then we got to add what we show here. Get done clicking this. I can't get too close with my clicks or it ends up throwing everything together and then stopping the dimension here. So that was 587, and we've got another 817 yards. So let's just simplify that and call it 1,300 yards all the way around that thing. Now, if I was to take a straight dimension from point to point, you see there to the pipe, it's 521 yards is the length of the Duckin hole. And then if we take, and this here to me is the widest point, if we take the widest point dimension, we're somewhere around 160 yards wide. That might be a little bit much. I was guessing more along the lines of 120. So this line over here or this line over here might be a little bit off because of how we contoured this area here. But that kind of gives you guys a really good idea. And the reason that this was contoured, again, was not specifically for a Duckin hole. It was contoured so that the farmer can plant all the way down to this ditch on both sides. Now, for me, being the guy that wants it as a Duckin hole, being able to control the water ensures that after that crop is harvested, I can put that standpipe on, which again, there's going to be a video coming out with that. But I can put the standpipe on, and then any water that basically comes from way over here all the way down that ditch line into this water hole starts to back up and get deeper. Now remember, the goal is to get 12 to 18 inches of water with different depths being throughout. So as you get closer to this edge, obviously it gets shallower. But my hope is that I can wade all the way across this to the ditch, or from this side all the way across to the ditch. And yes, I will utilize my dog to retrieve the downed birds, but if I can wade this area, it also helps with placing decoys and going out. If the dog can't get the bird for whatever reason, we can go out and get that bird. But if you also look at the actual characteristics of this, I know this isn't perfect, but it's close. This right here gives us a really good vantage point. We can set up here on dry ground and we're out in the water, if you will, because the water actually comes in behind us. You have the same thing here, the same thing here, and the same thing here. Currently, it was beans, so everything is really short, but when this is corn, I have asked the local farmer if he could leave his corn stubble taller, which allows us to hide in the actual cut-off stalks of the corn, and then we can go out in the field and retrieve that natural vegetation which was planted and is now corn stalks, and take that and use it for our blind material, also, like we like to call it, hide. I think I might have said that in the video a couple of times. So all of this will be raw dirt at one point in time, planted with crop, and then the crop will be harvested. There is a chance that within that, if I wanted to pay the farmer, for example, whatever the market price is for that crop, I could pay the farmer to leave that crop in this area. But again, that would cost me extra money to ensure that that crop is left for the animals to actually eat here at this site. In the state of Indiana, a natural crop can be flooded. You are not allowed to manipulate that crop. If you do a natural attempt to harvest, so corn and beans, if a combine was to come in here and harvest everything, but yet leave some stuff on the ground unintentionally, if you've ever seen a farm that a field that was harvested, you'll see that there are a little bit of offal, if you will, from that product. There's a few beans on the ground, there's some corn on the ground, every once in a while there's a corn cob laying there that didn't go in the head properly. There's a corn stalk that's laid over because it didn't get cut properly. But in today's world of combines, they are very, very, very efficient, so that's minimal. So if the first year of testing this, if there isn't enough product to keep birds there and hold birds there, then there may be a conversation in regards to what would it cost me to leave corn just in this area. He can harvest everything around it, and then once he is done harvesting, I can put my standpipe on, flood all of that standing product, which is grain, be it corn or beans is typically what's going to be in here, and the ducks will then come in to feed there because there is food on site and there's water that allows them to get to that food. If you can imagine a corn stalk, you have so much length before you have the first cob. In most cases, that's somewhere around 3 feet. So if I give them 18 inches of water, that gets them halfway to that cob and would allow them to reach their neck up while they're in the water, if you will, and get that corn off of the cob. So that's kind of the plan here. There will be another video coming out of me putting the standpipe on. DP believes this is going to fail. He does not think it will ever hold any water. He does not think the standpipe on the exit side of the pipe is going to be able to hold the pressure. I personally believe there isn't going to be a lot of pressure. The whole goal to this is water rising slowly, not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of gallons hitting this thing at one time, and that the end of that standpipe has to resist all of that pressure. I think a slow rise on that standpipe, again, the standpipe being open on top, so it basically equals out the water level on the inlet side of the dam. It's going to get to, let's just say, 4 foot deep, and on the outlet side, it's going to get to 4 foot deep inside the pipe, and then it'll spill over. Again, there'll be more details on that. I'll explain it while I'm at the actual pipe. But for this, that's a ducking hole. Laid it out, boots on the ground with you guys, put flags everywhere, and then this is the bird's eye view of it. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys that hunt. It makes sense to people who don't hunt, and hopefully you like the video. And as always, like, comment, subscribe.